Welcome to the Alternative Dog Moms podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom for more than 10 years. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I began raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott from the Believe in Dog podcast. For more than 10 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself. And I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned in case it could help you too. As the Alternative Dog Moms, Kimberly and I are bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and the brilliant people we're meeting along the way. Now let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin.
So I hope all the summer haters are happy because it's dark and cold and rainy here, and I'm never going to be warm again unless I'm having a hot flash.
Well, we got a little taste of summer today. It was in the mid 70s, I think, and very humid. I tried to straighten my hair on Saturdays. Saturday, Saturday I just blew my hair out, and then Sunday I straightened it, and it lasted for maybe 30 minutes. And I finally just gave up and got in the shower and got my curls back because the humidity has been pretty high here. But it was a nice day. Johan painted our kitchen drawers outside, and I cleaned the carpets upstairs with our carpet cleaner and left the windows open. So we're taking advantage. Oh, and I mowed the lawn. So we're taking advantage of this last day of summer. And then tomorrow it will be rainy in Pacific Northwest, and I will be drinking apple cider, and I'm fine. I'm sorry, Zoe's always with me, and she likes the fan on, but the fan clicks. It's funny how you don't notice sounds until you're recording. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I hear that sound. And it's just, that's lovely. But yeah, so it's a beautiful day, but I'll be where you are tomorrow. Today is our last day where it's sunset at 7 p.m. And then starting tomorrow, it gets later and later. And that's when it just becomes, I become a cozy person. Johan, I swear he has seasonal effectiveness disorder, SAD.
Yeah.
He does not do well. So it'll be a lovely time living with him for the next 6 months.
Yeah, I saw a stat that, it won't be until next March when the sun will be setting after 7 p.m. again. And I'm like, oh, that's depressing. Thanks.
I just think of like all the fun things that, I love walking the dogs and kicking dry leaves when I'm walking the dogs. And I don't know. I just convince myself that I'm going to love it, or else, I won't get anything accomplished because I'll just turn into a hermit for a few months.
It's already affected our news work schedule. We were doing it out in the yard in the evenings. And so now it's like the only time we can do it outside is like in the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday or something like that,
Yep. Yeah. So, but I mean, I guess the good thing is that since I work from home, my dogs still get their walks. So that was always the tough part for me, was leaving at night and coming home at night.
Yeah.
Then I would just basically try and walk around with a flashlight. It's not very lit up here. The Centennial Trail does not have street lights along it. But now it's like, since I work from home, I have a nice little walking schedule. Yesterday, our dog walker wasn't able to make it, and Apollo was convinced that he was here and went crazy and was howling and stuff. And so finally, I just put him on a leash and took him outside to show him that, no, he's not here. And he stood there like at attention, just looking, scanning the driveway, wondering where he was. And he was just like still not convinced because he's whimpering and stuff. So I took him off the leash, and he just ran around and he checked the cars to see if any of the cars were him. And when he finally realized that he wasn't here, I was like, I'll walk you. It's okay.
Yeah, they get on their routines. Like Nino hates going outside out in the backyard if there's even a hint of rain, or even if it rained yesterday and the grass is still wet, even if it's sunny today. But he got very pissy that he wasn't getting an evening walk today. And we're like, dude, you hate rain, but he wants to go out the front door and have a walk in the rain, but he won't go out the back door and have a pee in the rain. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I've been actually walking Apollo with Zoe right here because a few days ago I was about to take Apollo for a walk and she basically just demanded a walk. And she does that by hopping up and down on her front paws and making this just annoying whimpering sound that's absolutely adorable. And so I pulled out her harness and she knows how. She just puts her head into the harness. She knows how it goes and snaps it on her. And we went for a walk. And I didn't think she would do the whole walk, but she did the entire walk and she was perfectly happy, had a nice time. And I was like, oh, well, there you go. Now she's chilling. She's my old girl today.
Oh,
Did you see the recalls?
yeah.
I always find it interesting talking to people about recalls. I've decided that it's better to ask questions and just let people say what they want to say and not try to change their mind. If I ask, sometimes I'll ask for more information, like for more clarification on what they meant, but I don't want to change their mind. I want them to, this is what you believe. And my question to them was because the Darwin's recall, well, both of them started as warnings. The Darwin's one is still a warning. Well, I guess technically the Answers one is still a warning too, but Answers decided to do, what do they call it? It wasn't a recall. It was a withdrawn from market. So a few of the lots were withdrawn from the market. So, I mean, sounds like a recall to me, but, they do, like on the FDA website, they do have a definition of recalls and a definition of market withdrawal. And it's just like, golly, I'm so glad I don't own a raw food company. But I do find it interesting. Like some people, like one person said that they had never heard of Darwin's, never fed Darwin's, but just hearing that they had a recall, they don't want anything to do with that brand. And I just thought that was very like, nope, one recall, you're done. I don't want anything to do with you. There were other people who
I'd love to know what they do feed.
I know they don't live locally. I mean, Darwin's can be shipped across the country, but I know they don't live locally because if you had and you fed raw, you would have heard of Darwin's. Someone else mentioned that, like Brian, who works for a raw food company, he's more realistic about the fact that, you're just basically gonna butt heads with the FDA. That's just the way it is. And then there were people who were just kind of more interested, not so much in what the FDA says, but in how the brand responds to the news of the recall. So, like, again, with Darwin, some people appreciated that they notified their customers. Their understanding of what dogs and cats can tolerate with regard to bacteria. But other people felt like, Darwin's has way too many recalls. And I don't know what way too many is to them. I think it's not so much that they have had recalls. They just have had notices with the FDA. And I could probably think of maybe 3 or 4 off the top of my head over the past, maybe 8 years.
I mean, to me, I guess it matters. Like nobody's complaining that their dog got sick.
Yeah.
Like to me, that would be a factor in whether I would continue to feed the brand or not. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
well, there was and I don't want to say the brand's name because I know the company is very litigious, but it's a small raw food brand. And I've never fed their food, but when I was a new raw feeder, it was like people would mention it in groups and people would get all like, really, no, they have 3D and 4D meat. That's why it's so cheap. I remember within the past 5 years, it was a big deal where I don't know if they had a recall or I'm not sure what happened, but the FDA came a knocking. Maybe even it was the Department of Agriculture. I'm not sure. But it was kind of an attitude of finally people, because a lot of people fed the food because it was cheap, but other people who had issues with the food had a hard time getting in touch with the owners and talking to them. And another friend of mine, she actually was paramount in shutting down. And I use raw food company loosely because this guy was just doing it out of his house. But he was basically just lying about the proteins. He like had this huge, variety of proteins that he offered, but she was giving one to is either her dog or her daughter's dog, where she knows that the dog is allergic to chicken and has a certain reaction to chicken. And she's feeding the dog something completely different, and the dog is having that same reaction. And she just started looking at it and thinking, this doesn't seem right. And she sent it off to the lab, had it tested. It was chicken. She tested a few other ones. They were all chicken. And he was just basically selling a couple of proteins, but calling them all these different varieties.
That's not okay.
Yeah, different race. And so she gathered all the evidence together and turned it into the Department of Agriculture and got him shut down. So it's like those are the type of things that I want the FDA to regulate and get in there and shut that down. If dogs are getting sick, if even if people are getting sick. I mean, if a raw food is so toxic that I'm going to get sick by handling it, by spooning it into a bowl, I want it taken off the market. But it seems more, their zero tolerance policy is just, when I saw the Darwins and the answers notices, I was just sort of like, must be that time of year again.
Yeah, that's kind of what I felt, especially when I read it and saw that nothing, nobody was complaining that there was dogs getting sick. I mean, there's other brands that lots of people claim that dogs do get sick and nothing ever happens. And then these companies, dogs aren't even getting sick, and, government agencies are freaking out about it,
That's what's so interesting, because it's just, I don't feel like, okay, so speaking of the other foods, nothing was definitively proven that tied the foods to the dogs. And I seriously doubt that a list of 20 random brands are all resulting in the same illness with dogs. Of course, I don't know anything about making kibble, so I am open to being wrong. That being said, clearly something was going on. Clearly something needed to be looked into. And although the FDA came back and said, we found nothing, I kind of question, what did you guys do? I mean, did you find nothing, or could you have been biased? Because I don't doubt that they had people in that group, since it was a public group. It's just sort of like, could you have been biased and looked at it as more of a kind of a witch hunt / hysteria, and just didn't take it as seriously? Because based on what I've heard, they had vet information, necropsies, and all kinds of different things. So I don't know. I just, maybe there was nothing, but I just, looking at how they come after raw food companies when nothing's going on, and then how they, it takes a lot for them to get them to start moving. Thousands and thousands of dogs and cats need to be harmed.
I mean,
for them to start moving.
Could you imagine if there were that many number of complaints against a raw food company?
I know.
Or even if it was a proportional amount of complaints,
I know.
for the market share.
If a group lit on fire, if all the dogs were having similar health issues, if they were maybe there was a list of 5 brands that were all kind of made out of the same distribution center or handled out of the same distribution center. I think that it would have been on the news. I think that it would have been, finally, see, this is what we're telling you. This is dangerous. I think veterinary offices would have had flyers to hand out to people to say, be careful with these brands. And, I know you think raw feeding is great, but look at what happened here. I think it would be the nail in the coffin that they've been waiting for years. But I kind of have turned into a tinfoil hat wearing person when it comes to the government.
I don't think it makes you a tinfoil hat person to think that there are corporate interests that control government responses to things. I mean, I think that's America.
And it's like, the more I've been, looking into and it's so funny because I've been looking into my dog's diet for over a decade. I've been looking into my own diet for 6 months, and looking at just little things like, because I'm anemic. And one of the reasons why I started taking natural supplements is because synthetics don't do anything for me. I'll just I just basically start crashing and I get really tired and a little edgy and cranky. Johan will be like, "Have you been taking your iron?" And it's like, "No, mind your own business." But it's just, I know that the synthetic stuff doesn't work. I saw a post, I think it was on Nick Thompson's page or maybe it wasn't, maybe it was something on TikTok. I don't know, but they talked about how many things the ingredients have changed, from when we were kids to today.
Absolutely.
Like Pop-Tarts and different cereals and stuff. And also someone else made a connection, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they talk about the rise in gluten sensitivities and ADHD and all of these things, kind of correlates with the rise of processed foods and how this is what we're so used to eating, all of these processed foods.
And also when Roundup Ready glyphosate bioengineered crops were introduced to the market in the early 90s. And yeah, all of these, autoimmune, cancer, allergies, I've had all of these things, have just exploded in that time.
Yeah. When you think about the fact that all of these things are going into our diet, into our environment, and then, it stresses you out. That's not what I meant to say. It makes me think even further of Febreze. Like, Febreze is a really good flea killer. Why is an air freshener or a fabric freshener also a flea killer?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know if it really works that well today, but years ago, I adopted a kitten, Jaffrey, and he came to me with a bucket load of fleas. And so I defleed him because he was a kitten. I couldn't use anything on him because he was too young. So I just basically had to give him a bath and use tweezers to pick all the fleas off of him. Then I had to spray down my house, all the carpets, and you had to do it multiple times. You had to do it, and then a couple weeks later, do it again. So after each batch of eggs hatch, you had to do it again. And it takes about a month or so, but then you can kill all the fleas. But back then, I'm just like, oh, isn't this great? I don't have to use a flea bomb, and this is going to be, this isn't bad. The flea bomb is poison, but this isn't bad. And it's just like little things like that you just don't think about. And so all that to be said, when the FDA says something, I have a hard time going, okay, FDA, thanks for letting us know, because I just don't buy into what they're spooning out. And I don't understand how we can be so conscious of the fact that processed foods are so unhealthy, but we're still feeding our dogs crap and wondering why they're not living as long.
I mean, that's what got me on this whole journey, is going back to around 2010. I was having health issues and started getting really into what I'm eating and what was causing me these problems. And then being like, wait, what are my dogs eating? And I knew about people who fed raw. And I'm like, oh, that's why they do that. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. We need to change the dogs too. Like, it's always been like very intertwined with me of like, I learned something from them and then I do it for me. I learn something from me and I do it from them. Like, by the way, if anybody ever has like any weird stomach problems that they can't figure out, check your diet for sucralose, because that was my problem.
Oh, I know. That does. Okay, so remember, I'm trying to think of crystal, not crystal meth, not crystal meth, but crystal light. Yeah, crystal light. I used to love that. Put it in your water, shake it up, and you have flavored water all day. Started a day, no big deal, but by the end of the day, I just felt really uncomfortable. Not bloaty, just very uncomfortable, and didn't want to eat really anything, and never paid attention to it until I was just not feeling well one day, and I mentioned it, and a coworker was like, "Are you using Crystal Light?" And she turned it over and showed me the ingredients. She's like, "Never buy anything with these things in it." And I had no idea. And she knew because she had health issues. And so she was constantly looking at her diet because she had, a gluten sensitivity. She had all of these type of things going on. And so she really had to be careful of her diet.
Yeah, I had started to drink less soda and I was drinking these flavored waters all the time and thought that that was great. And then had horrific stomach problems and had to go to all these doctors and have all these tests and everything done. And nothing was helping me and nobody could figure anything out. And, I'm getting oh, is it in your head? Is it
Yeah.
depression kind of, thing? And so through my own research, I discovered that there was a connection with sucralose and certain artificial sweeteners. And I realized that that's what was in my water, cut those out of my diet, and have never had a problem since.
Yeah.
And I've had two other friends that I have, when I found out they were having issues, that I suggested that to them. And they were like, oh my God, it was in my yogurt. Oh, it was in this, diet thing I was buying. And it was the cause of their issues also.
No, isn't that the craziest thing? It's like the things that you think are healthy that aren't like yogurt. I mean, when I go to the grocery store, I look at things so much differently than I used to.
Yeah.
Because even like the bakery, where you're like, okay, I won't buy Chips Ahoy. I'll go to the bakery and buy cookies. But you turn it over and read the ingredients, and it's pretty much the same ingredients as what you would buy on a supermarket shelf. I mean, it's just, they're not
because
healthy.
nothing in a bakery anymore is at a grocery store is fresh. It's just all processed stuff from their home office that they pop in the oven there.
Yes. So I received a package from you recently.
Yes.
In the package were beautiful podcast stickers. So I'm excited to take those to Feed Real with me and I'll hand them out to folks.
Yes, I forgot to mention that anybody who attended the Nova Pet Summit, they got Alternative Dog Mom podcast stickers in their goodie bag. And I had enough left over to split the rest between you and I so that we could give them out when we go. You're going to Feed Real and I'm going to the Dr. Judy event. And so we'll have enough to give out there too.
That is so much fun. It's going to be so much fun. And I was invited to be on the panel at the Feed Real. I'll be the moderator on the panel
awesome.
at the Feed Real thing. What's exciting is that I get to push buttons, not in an aggressive way, but I get to ask, follow-up questions and really push topics to see, what people think on various things. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Do you know who's on the panel?
Yes, I do. I do know that Dr. Karen Becker will be there and Dr. Barbara Royal will be there. I know that there are other people too, but those are the two people that I thought of off the top of my head, because I'm excited if the topic comes up, I'm really interested in their thoughts on spay and neuter for the rescue community, because we can all talk about ovary sparing and
vasectomy.
Vasectomy. Thank you. We can talk about all these things, but at this time, it's not something that's available to a lot of people and not available affordably. And for those of us who are adopting, the choice has been taken out of our hands. Our dogs are coming to us already altered. So I would really like to hear about what are their thoughts? What do you tell people, in our community, what can we do? Because, for a while we had Dr. Becker's and the Mercola supplement that people could use, but I don't know if that's something that's still an option anymore. So it's just sort of at this point, what can we do to kind of get around some of the potential health issues that our dogs may experience in the future? So those are the type of things that I would really, because I love the passion that people have about not vaccinating, about, delaying the spay, raw feeding, and all of the other choices that we're making for our pets. But the reality is that not everyone has the ability. I can get away with not vaccinating my dogs because I don't take them anywhere. And no one's coming and knocking on my door to ask me to prove that I have them vaccinated. I mean, granted, I still vaccinate them. I just stretch it out a lot further than 3 years. But not everyone has that luxury. So it's just sort of I would love to see more discussions on what can we do rather than people shouting at you, or at least it feels that way, that you should be titering your dogs. And it's like, okay, I get that you guys think that that is the answer to everything. It is expensive. It's expensive. And there are some veterinarians who are so open to it and are making it easier for people. And there are some veterinarians who are making it so expensive. I don't know if it's because the blood draw and shipping and all that is just that expensive, or if it's a deterrent from us doing it. But I know that last I checked, it was going to be over $1,000 per dog to titer them.
Wow.
Yeah, for rabies and parvo and all the other things. Yeah, it was going to be basically close to it. I think it was going to be like $800 to $1,000 per dog, because just the rabies alone was $600 per dog.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew there's options that are cheaper if you can get, the blood draw yourself. I don't know. I've never actually done it because, like I said, I've been kind of fortunate that I find vets that aren't super pressed on it.
Mm-hmm.
I worry more with Nessie because if we get more into the dog sport world, they get very chompy at the bit that you have to show, vaccine, at least rabies, but
Yeah.
oftentimes distemper, parvo vaccines also. So I do worry about it a little more with her than I have with some, with like our old guy who's not going anywhere and nobody's going to be demanding to see his papers anywhere unless we have to go for a procedure at a conventional vet hospital, which, could potentially be an issue.
Yeah.
At certain times. I will say Rita Hogan recently did a podcast episode on dogs are individuals about supporting spayed dogs. So this was just from more of a female dog perspective, that she gave some really interesting ideas. And it's been so long since I listened to it now that some of it has escaped me, but she had certain products and brands of like glandular support. Like you were mentioning that the Bark and Whiskers doesn't sound like it's being backed by Dr. Becker anymore. So make sure we have a link to that because that was a really good episode. Like I need to go back and like take notes and like write things down because I was like listening to it folding laundry and I'm like, ooh.
Okay, so this is random and total, right turn, left turn, whatever you want to call it. But someone asked me the difference between flaxseed and flaxseed oil. So that sent me down a rabbit hole like you wouldn't believe. And I like to stock up on things. So if something's on special, I will buy 2 or 3. And I did that with chia seeds and with hemp seeds. And then I got some flaxseed, organic flaxseed, ground flaxseed at the store. And I thought I was being so clever by taking them out of the bags and putting into glass jars that sealed. But what I didn't know was that all of these things oxidize. And so
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah.
although they're in a dark garage, it's not the ideal way to store them. Also, they don't have an extended shelf life. So if you want them to last a long time, you leave them in the original bag, leave it sealed, put it in the fridge. It'll last a few years. Once you open it, it still will last a long time, but you got to keep it in the fridge. But if you're leaving it out in a jar like I was, it lasts a couple months. And so I had all of these chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds that I've had for years. That was no good anymore. So I filled up a bag of stuff and threw it all out and replaced it with new product. But it was just one of those things where I never thought about it before. So before you stock up on anything, double check the shelf life, how it needs to be stored. It's just never even occurred to me.
Good tip.
And I found that flaxseed is actually healthier than flaxseed oil. Flaxseed comes with all of the benefits, the fiber, the protein, the antioxidants, additional nutrients. So the ground flaxseed comes with all of that. Whereas flaxseed oil is more for the omega-3 fatty acids. But since it's ALA omega-3s and not EPA DHA omega-3s, by the time it converts over, we only get a small percentage of those. So basically, it's just a waste. I mean, you can still get it if you want it to cook with it or something. But if anyone's out there thinking about buying flaxseed oil for their dog, it's just get salmon oil.
I'm like being reminded of all this because I feel like I have been down that rabbit hole in the past, and I'm like, oh, that's right, that's right, that's right. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It was a fun rabbit hole to go down. It was just like I was up all night. I wrote an entire article on it that's ridiculously long, breaking down everything that I learned, how much to give, how long it can store, how to best process it. So chia seeds is better to just make a pudding. It's just easier to do that.
Yeah.
Hemp seeds, you can just add hemp seeds, but you need to get them shelled or whole or hemp hearts so that it's exposed and you can actually absorb them. But you can make hemp milk, and it's basically you take it and blend it in water, and it turns cloudy and white, and you have hemp milk.
I've made hemp milk, cashew milk, almond milk. Yeah, I've done all those. I haven't done it in a while, but I have.
It was kind of cool just learning all these cool things. And so I haven't written an article in probably a month. And so that was a fun one to learn about. And so now I know not to stock up on, I'll probably still will stock up on all of those things when they go on sale. I just won't go crazy, and I definitely won't open them until I'm ready to use them.
I don't know if people really appreciate how difficult blogging is because I have a folder of like 30 half-written blogs that I want to write, I want to publish. I'll like get an idea about something, I'll like pound it out, but it's just like an outline or a draft. And Tori Mystic has been doing this blogging challenge for the month of September, and I've really been trying really hard. And instead of actually finishing one, I have just like half written 3 more. And I'm like, man, I hope people understand exactly how much work it is to successfully have a blog going like you do for so long about so many different topics, about,
It is. It is
research.
so hard. It is so hard. It is. And I've gotten to a point where, I don't really care anymore. I care. It's just that I don't feel as anxious as I did, 10 years ago, where I have to publish something every week or something like that. I just come to it. It comes to me when it comes to me. So this one was because someone asked me the question, and I was like, that's a really good question. I don't know the answer. Or I thought I knew the answer, but as I'm diving down the rabbit hole, I started wondering, well, wait a minute, what about this? And what about this? And I like this. And it just took me I learned so many things about these seeds. And I ended up with a really long blog post. But I think the thing that excites me is just learning something new. I really get a kick out of figuring something out that'll work for my dogs, and being able to articulate that in a fashion that other people can learn from is exciting as well. I think the thing that sucks about blogging is, even though, people say, oh, blogging is dead, it's not dead. It's just that Google puts forums like Reddit and videos
Quora, yeah.
and Quora and their AI above blogs. So where I used to be on page 1 for things, I'm now on page 2 or 3. So my traffic has tanked like you wouldn't believe.
I would rather rip my eyeballs out of my head than ever look at Reddit.
The reason why I look at Reddit is I'm going to say 3 things because 3 is my favorite number. So, but it might just be 2 things. I look at Reddit when I'm trying to figure something out, and it's just sort of like something pop culture-y, because someone would have asked the question on Reddit. And so, like, for instance, today I was watching a police cam video, and I was just like, I'm pretty sure the girl being arrested was one of the teen moms on MTV. And I bet you somewhere on Reddit, this person, all of her legal or stuff is documented, and there's a discussion. In fact, there was another issue where, I was watching. Do you remember the the MTV real world road rules challenges?
Oh, yeah. I know they're a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are still happening.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
And I know, and it cracks me up because it makes me feel so good, because there are these people who are my age or maybe just a little bit younger than me, where I watch their season. Like I remember them on TV and when I was in my 20s and they're coming back and it's just like, God bless you, because I would get off the plane and just go, I'm not leaving the airport. Take me back home. I'm tired already. But they're still doing it. But there was a woman on there that was just behaving. And I was just like, what is, at first it was just sort of like, ooh, drama. But then it became sad because it's like something is wrong with this person. And this was like an example of why I don't like reality TV. And if you're listening to this, we will talk about dogs in a minute. But I went to Reddit to find out, and typed in the person's name and the season. And there was a whole discussion of, oh my God, she's going through so much. She just got diagnosed with cancer and stuff. And so it's just like, okay, so this isn't, I actually couldn't watch it anymore because it was just sad because she just had a meltdown on television. So that's what Reddit is good for. Another thing Reddit is good for is, as a blogger, if you don't know what to write about, because I mean, part of writing blogs is writing stuff that I'm interested in learning, but mostly it's in who is going to look for this information, because I need people to click on my links and read it. And so if I want to see, like, for instance, for raw feeding, if I'm looking to see what questions are people asking about raw feeding, it's easier to go to the raw food Reddit thread and just look at the titles. I don't dive into the discussions. I have here and there said something, but for the most part, I don't dive into discussions. I just look at what people are asking. And I get a lot of blog topic ideas that way.
Oh, okay.
And it's a little more organized than like a Facebook group, which is kind of all, because that Reddit has titles. So that's a good thing for Reddit. So two things. Those two things that Reddit is good for.
Okay, those are good tips, because to me, it's just like all of the horrendousness of Facebook groups and Facebook comments, but without any memes or dog pictures to look at. Like, that sounds awful.
The hate of Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it's dark. I mean, I've made the mistake of just following and just didn't say anything, just reading it. And I was just like, why is everyone so angry? Yeah.
Well, I'll just put it this way. If anybody out there is interested in what they should know before signing up for any online dog training classes, please bug me about it so that I will finish writing about it. Because I have been trying to write this for like a month, and then I'm like, ooh, I should also write this. Ooh, I should also write about this. Ooh. And then I start writing something else, and then I never have actually finished the like what you need to know before doing online dog training.
Well, don't feel bad, because let me see. I'm going to tell you, as a person who has been blogging since 2009, trying to see how many drafts I have, 120 drafts. So, and I just slowly go through, because I basically use my draft to go, oh, this is a cool idea. And I'll put a draft, a outline and a title. And sometimes I'll go back to it and sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll see something that's like, I'm not writing about that, and I'll delete the draft, but something else will replace it within a couple days. So
I just want you to know, I see the work.
Thank you.
I respect it.
It's not easy. I mean, I do like it, but yeah, it's not easy. It always cracks me up, because right now, I don't see a lot of people who want to be bloggers. I mostly see people who want to be influencers. And it's funny to me because I don't really consider myself an influencer. I save that role for the people who have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. Those are the influencers out there. But it's interesting to me, because the biggest piece of advice I give to anyone is, do not take anything personally, because I don't think everyone intends to be rude or mean. What I think is that people are commenting on the fly. And so it comes across a lot, sort of short, and depending upon where you are, you may take it in a way that it just wasn't meant to be. Because I know that I find myself where I just want to type up something really quick and hit send, and I don't really think about if it's clear, if it's come across, and I have to force myself to slow down and really, it's like, is this a good time for me to join into this conversation, or maybe I should just let it go? So yeah, get a very thick skin.
I just get aggravated where it's like, I gotta be a freaking movie producer now. Like, I gotta know how to like light things and film things, and
I
I'm just like, I never wanted to do that. Like,
know.
I can barely take a good picture in good lighting. Now I gotta like film a whole damn thing, like
That's why
storyboard it. Like,
I love the
oh,
YouTubers who just don't give a damn. They're just sort of like in a room talking and they just don't give a damn because it's just like that's my speed. I don't want to have to do all of these different things. I don't want to have to buy all of these different products, to like there's right now is a tripod and it has the ring lights on each side of the camera. And then there's another one that you can hang around your neck and you just sit the camera on it. And so it films what you're doing. And I think that's all great, but it's just like this huge contraption. And it's just like, no, I'm not spending any more money.
well, yeah. Sometimes I feel like it's all just designed to make everybody keep spending money on more
Oh, yeah.
products.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we went on a family trip to Disney World, and this was back in 2018. So it's been several years now. And there's like a whole like Disney bloggers and vloggers that would walk around with these big contraptions and they're filming everything and I'm like, and they're like moms, and you're just like, dude, pay attention to your kid. Like,
That's what's so funny is that that's my whole thing is with my dogs is I want to be with my dogs.
yeah.
I love the dog pages that I follow where I basically fall in love with the dog and I'm looking forward to seeing what the dog is up to. I have thought about trying to do more content with me and the dogs, but I can't. It's too much because that's when I'll feel like I have to buy all these different things to light up the room. It kind of reminds me of and I know this isn't what they're doing, but have you ever seen a video where someone's crying and they have like the sad music and stuff? I'm always wondering, okay, so how much time did it take you to set the camera right, to get the lighting right? Then you cried and then you checked the footage to make sure it was okay. You may have done it a couple more times. Then you edited it and uploaded it, found the music that would go perfectly with it, found a caption that would get, and then it's just sort of like, it's so much.
Yeah.
It's just so much. And I'm not clever enough to do what a lot of these dog pages are doing. I mean, I get a clever idea here and there. And I feel like that's kind of like I did do a clever idea that I'm going to share probably tonight for a reel, but, but it's just like it comes to me once a week or so.
I get great ideas, but I have like zero ability to make them look the way that I want to look. And then I just get all aggravated. And then I just don't even want to spend time on it. And I mean, I'm just very in the moment. I'm not thinking all the time, like,
Yes.
oh, that would be. I mean, like I said, we go to Super Zoo. I don't even have a picture of me and you together because I was so excited to see you and like hang out with you and be with you that I'm never stopping to be like, oh, I should stop and get a picture of this. I just wanted to like have the hang.
But we had so much fun. I mean, I loved our trip to Super Zoo. I
Yes.
mean, I thought it was just the best. My favorite part was getting up and meeting you for breakfast. I mean, it's just like after we figured out where my elevator was, because I was at a different
And which
elevator.
Starbucks we were at.
Yeah, because the fact that there's two different Starbucks. Yeah, I mean, we had so much fun.
And that burger, like I still like I loved our burger
Right?
meal. I
That
still
burger
think
was
about that. Yeah.
delicious. That burger was delicious. Okay, so sorry guys, back to dogs. So you sent me let's talk about Dr. Tom Lonsdale because I always try to explain to people where I get my inspiration from and it's part Dr. Ian Billinghurst and part Dr. Tom Lonsdale because they both have a very basic simple approach to raw feeding. They're both experienced veterinarians, so I feel comfortable following their path. And they've been doing this for a gazillion years. So I feel like if they don't know, then who's going to know?
I feel like you just said, and my favorites are the Bloods and the Crips.
I know exactly. Right? I know, right?
The Jets and the Sharks. I love them both.
I know. I know. It's so true too. It's so true because it's like I don't even think they have so much in common. But that's like my favorite thing is that, I do not find myself like I made a meal for my dogs this morning. It was chopped up quail, with some canned sardines and a chicken egg. I'm sure there's something else in there that I put in there, but I can't remember what it is. And some mashed up vegetables. I basically took the base mix and added in some hemp seeds, hydrated it up, and put a spoonful in everyone's bowl. And that's what they ate for breakfast this morning. And I'm perfectly fine with that. And it's funny because I filmed it and I'm going to put it on social media, but I have to fortify myself for the that's not balanced conversations that I'm going to get because it's not balanced. But I don't care about that because I balance over time. And it's just that following those two empowered me to feel so 100% comfortable in how I feed my dogs. A third person is Thomas Sandberg of Long Living Pets, who we've also had on the podcast. And, just all three of these gentlemen have just made it easier for me to just do what feels right and trust that my dogs are getting what they need.
So I want to put a link in the show notes to Dr. Lonsdale's Facebook page because he's been posting some articles that he's written recently, and I hope he can get some love, show some love for the work that he's put in. And he was very kind and gracious when I had commented and was like, "Oh, we were the first podcast that had him on as a guest when promoting his new book." And so he gave a link to the podcast episode too. And I just thought that was very kind. And, there was an article like, this man is 75 years old and he has spent over £1 million of his own money to fight these big kibble companies and fight the corporate takeover of veterinary medicine. And I just have so much respect for him. And, he could be, on the beach somewhere. And instead, he's still fighting the good fight for all of us and for all of our dogs. And
I couldn't even imagine. It's funny because someone asked me, what I would do. Like if someone came along, someone knocked on my door and offered me several $1 million because $1 million is never enough anymore.
Oh, not in this economy.
It's like, but several $1 million, what would I do? Like, would I do this full time and, and be an advocate full time? And I really had a hard time saying that I would, because it's not just the passion for the animals, it's the avoiding the battles, because that's why it's like someone like Susan Thixton is that the fact that she's stuck with it. Even, Dr. Karen Becker and other, prominent veterinarians who have had people call them, a quack for what they're doing. I mean, there's one veterinarian that has basically made his entire platform about, questioning every single thing holistic.
Right.
And he's not always very kind. and
he's never very kind.
And so it's just sort of like, I don't know, you have to really have a good sense of where you are and what you're trying to do so that you can constantly remember that you're not here to make friends. You're not here to change their minds. You're here for the people who need this information and for the animals who need this information and need to make the change so that you don't get sidetracked. I think in the past, so many times I've gotten sidetracked and it's so easy to do. I got sidetracked last week on TikTok, but that was kind of fun. But to not only do all of that, but then put your money behind it. Wow. I stick with my cell phone and CapCut, and that's my contribution. That's something that I can do. But I would love to do more. I really would. I mean, I love seeing what like Rachel Fasaro is doing.
Yeah.
I really like that, her videos are so just relaxing and calm. And I even see the people who have smaller followings, the fact that there's a page called What Buddy Eats. And they're just sharing their dog's meals I don't know if it's every day, but it comes to my feed. And I just love that. There's another page called Raw Feeding Iran. And it's a guy in Iran who this dog's raw food diet, and he shares things like that. Yeah. So there's all these really cool small pages that are sharing what they're doing. And that's kind of where I get excited, is seeing people who are just at home feeding their dogs, and they just take a picture and share it and explain what they're feeding to their dogs. I think that that's really cool. Yay.
So, new TV show. I'm all about it.
Oh my God, it's so good. I have only seen one episode and I'm praying that it doesn't let me down. But what is it called? Do you remember?
High Potential.
High Potential.
Which at first I thought was some kind of like weed reference, but it's not.
When I saw the commercial for it, I immediately started looking for it because I was just like, I want to see this. And so it's a show about a woman that has a high IQ, and she not only has a high IQ, but she likes things to be organized. When she sees something that's wrong or out of order, she is compelled to fix it. So I'm gathering a single mom. She has 3 children. 2 of her children are like her, and her oldest daughter is not like her. And then she works as a maid. And so she's in a police station cleaning up, and she's dancing, and it's just so much fun.
That was a great scene.
Yeah. And she notices a chart on the wall where they're trying to break down a case.
Like the murder board.
Yeah. And they have, do they say like suspect? And she crosses it out and says victim.
Yeah.
And so they go and they say, who's doing this? And they look at the camera, they see her, they bring her in, and she ends up working with them. And I love it because one of the detectives, he was a nurse on Grey's Anatomy, because leave it to me to tie everything back to Grey's Anatomy.
Well, the main character, she was from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and she's been in a couple other shows too.
Yes, it is so cool. And I'm just going to say this, but the main character and her daughter, if that isn't good casting, I don't know what is, because I would believe that they were mother and daughter, because they have so many similar facial features. But yeah, it's like I watched the first episode and was really excited about it, and it's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for a new show.
I had to laugh because Tim doesn't usually get into my crime shows. And last night I had sat down to eat dinner, and he was like a few minutes behind me, and I was like, well, let me start this show up, because I had it on the DVR and I wanted to check it out. And I was like, I figured he'd come in and be like, I'm not watching this. And then he comes in and he's like, oh, what's this? And Tim is like in the same vein as that woman. Like, he notices things. He's always trying to put things together. Like, he very much like appreciated all that. And that's why I texted you. I'm like, oh my God, Tim's gonna leave me for the girl in the show. Because like, oh my God, that's like his dream woman right there. Because meanwhile, he has Erin with 18 piles of books on the dining room table, and it drives him crazy, you know?
It's just like, it's a really good show. So I'm hoping that it sticks around and it's good and that they don't cancel it. That's pretty much, I'm still watching Will Trent. I actually took a break from it and came back to it. So now I'm catching up.
Oh, the new season starts soon.
Yeah. Oh, good. So I'm catching up on Will Trent, and
Elsbeth. I think the new season of Elsbeth comes back.
That is, I don't even know what to say about that show, but it is a joy. I just get such a kick out of that character. And it cracks me up because I love actors when I look at them and I'm like, I know you from somewhere, but I don't know what it is. And I know that she's had that character, Elsbeth, on another show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I cannot for the life of me remember what it was. But when I was watching it, I immediately remembered her, because I was just like, no, she's from a different show, that character. And so honestly can't remember what it was, but the actress was on True Blood.
Yeah, that's what I knew her from.
And it was just like, and I always just got a kick out of when, they look familiar, but the way they're acting, everything is so completely different that, as much as I love him, Ryan Reynolds plays Ryan Reynolds in most of the, roles that he's in, and he does well at it, and I enjoy it. So I don't mind it, but actors who don't do that, it's really kind of cool. Are you looking up Elsbeth?
I am, because I must know. You're right. She was on The Good Wife.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. She was on The Good Wife. Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited.
And The Good Fight, which I think was a spinoff of The Good Wife.
I watched The Good Wife. I tried to watch The Good Fight, but I just wasn't in the mood. I wasn't in the mood. I was back basically in 2020 where I just returned to Grey's Anatomy and just was like, this is my comfort. Everything's crazy in the world, but everything's fine with Grey's Anatomy.
We all needed our comfort shows in 2020.
I know. So that was mine. And now I just feel like a weirdo because basically everything I tie back to, I either tie it back to Grey's Anatomy, and every now and then I tie it back to, the crime show where it was the scientist cops.
Bones?
Nope. I do love that show.
CSI?
Yeah, CSI Miami was mine.
Oh,
And I just started watching CSI New York, but I know that one of the characters dies. I don't know when she dies, but I remember the episode and I was really upset by it because I really like the character. And so I have to look up when she dies so I can be prepared for it. I have to do the same thing with Bones when Sweets. I always have to look and see when Sweets dies. It's at the end of season 10, I think. Or it's either at the beginning or end of season 10. Same thing with like Derek Shepherd. And there's something about the 10-year itch with these
did you
shows.
ever watch NCIS?
Yes, I liked the New Orleans one.
So if in the original one, which I think we hung in with for maybe 7 or 8 years, I think it might still be on. I don't even know. I don't know anything about it anymore. But in the early days, there was a woman named Kate. And for our anniversary one year, I got my husband and I these books where you like fill in like your different memories with each other. And then we would like swap and compare them, And so one of the questions was like, what was a hard time that you got through? And to this day, I remember Tim put when Kate got killed on NCIS because we were so heartbroken and it was so shocking.
It's so funny because it's like it cracks me up because I don't know how America is still around. And I know we can't possibly be the only people on this planet who do this, but I just feel like, this is something very distinctly American where we become very invested in our TV programs. And I think the UK does with Doctor Who, because I've never watched Doctor Who and I'm afraid to because people are very passionate about that show. But yeah, it's like I get really devoted. And I remember when rumors were going out that they were going to kill off Shepard, and people were on Twitter like, I will never watch your show again. And people wanted to do like, what is it called when you sign documents and you have
like a petition
a petition to keep them. And I was just kind of like, well, okay, so I don't want Derek Shepherd to die either. However, if Patrick Dempsey is tired, of doing the show and he wants to do something different, let's just wish him well. But I remember there are the few characters. I hated it when George died. I hated it when Izzy left. I hated it when Dr. Burke left. I hated it when Derek Shepherd left. I hate it when Callie and Arizona broke up multiple times. I just really got way too much into the show. And I'm watching a series right now about Sex and the City. And I'm finally realizing, and this isn't the first time I've realized this. I started realizing it in 2020 because, again, we're at home. What are you going to do? I'm going for my comfort shows. And I started watching Sex and the City again because I have all the seasons. And Carrie Bradshaw is like a horrible human being. An absolute horrible human being. And her relationship with Big was so dysfunctional. It's
so
not
toxic. Yeah.
And we loved this show and thought it was romantic. I remember my friends and I dressing up for the movie, and we went to dinner, had cosmopolitans, and we were, and I remember the theater was jam-packed with women all dressed up, and, with flasks and ready to watch this movie. And oh my gosh, I wonder if the few men that were in the theater were just like, what is wrong with this? It doesn't seem right. Because it was insane. And so, we're just like totally off topic, but it's just like, and I still watch it sometimes, just like Vampire Diaries. Elena is like the worst character ever. She's always getting in trouble. They say, stay here, stay in the car, Elena, stay in the house, Elena. And Elena's like, oh no, I'm going to come help. You're a human, Elena. We're vampires and we're going to go fight the werewolves. So can you please just sit your little butt in the car? Oh no. So she goes and gets kidnapped. And then her best friend, Bonnie, who is like the best character, but they treated her so crappily in all of the shows. She could never get a boyfriend. All of her boyfriends ended up dying. She ended up trapped in a prison world for years. And well, I don't know how long it was, but it was just like, and this is why I watch Grey's Anatomy over and over again, because it hasn't let me down. I mean, it is inappropriate for so many people to be having sexual relations in a sterile environment, but I can kind of let that go. But with all my other comfort shows, they're just pissing me off. Scandal. It is pissing me off because everyone's a murderer. Everyone is evil. She is destroying a person's marriage by sleeping with this woman's husband. And when that show was on, we were like rooting for them. And it's just like, that is so wrong. Okay, I'm done.
Well, before we go, I do want to mention this might air after the fact, but Saturday, September 28th
Yep.
is Independent Pet Food Store Day.
Ooh.
And so shout out to all of our listeners who own independent pet stores,
Yes.
and everybody else should be shopping at them on Saturday.
Absolutely. I can only think of 3 independent pet stores right now. I know that there are a lot more. Well, there's Natural Pet Pantry in my area, Jules Animal House. There's Patty Whack in Mill Creek. Jules Animal House, I think, has 3 locations. Earthwise Pet, I don't know if it's really considered independent because it's a chain, but each person has their own store, so it's kind of independent. But there's also 3 Dog Night, which I have never been to because it's clear hours away from me, but it's still in my state. So, hi, guys.
Yes, and I usually shop at Clippers Canine Cafe, hey Kate, and Barron's, and they have a whole awesome team run by Ben. But yeah, I want to make sure we mention that because obviously almost all raw feeders need to have a great independent pet food store near them.
Absolutely.
All right, bye guys.
See you later.